Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to start a reading vlog for one of the books that I wanted to read this year, one of the new to me authors I wanted to try this year. This is the first one for this year, but I have done this for a couple of years and there's a whole playlist. I have done a lot of authors, popular fantasy authors, other like very famous authors, so you can go and check it out if you're interested. However, in this vlog, we're going to talk about Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. I got this as an ebook and I'm very excited to jump into this one. Now, to be completely fair, I don't really know a whole lot about this book. I think this is kind of like magical realism, maybe even fantasy adjacent. I never know how to say that word. But apparently this is a reimagining of The Tempest, which doesn't tell me anything because I have never read or like seen The Tempest. I don't know what it's about. So I will just experience this story the way that it is written in this book. I'm very, very excited to start reading Gloria Naylor. This is an author I've had my eye on for a while and one where I've like very strong like 5-star feeling. So we'll see whether I'm correct about that. Usually in these videos, I do like quarterly updates, so when I'm 25% through, halfway through, and then 75% and when I finish the book. But because this is the ebook and there's also an introduction that I jumped over because it is like, you know, one of those like introductions that spoils the book. So I jumped over that part, and because of that, the like pages don't really mash up really well. I can't really calculate where the 25% mark is. However, it seems that this book is really just 2 big chapters. So I think what I'm going to do instead is that I will update you when I am halfway through the first chapter, then when I have finished the first chapter, and then same with the second chapter. So I hope with that we will kind of still have this like feeling of really going through the book together. I will also be able to tell you a little bit more of what this book is actually about in that first update when I'm about a quarter of the way through. So yeah, I think for now I'm just gonna get reading and I'll talk to you once I'm a little bit further in. So I'm now 25% into Mama Day, around. As I said, it's a bit difficult to tell, but I wanted to give you a first update, and I was really hoping that by this first update I could tell you what this book is about, but I feel like that is quite the task, so let me try. So this book definitely has an interesting structure. As I mentioned in my previous update, we do have kind of an introduction, and if you hear weird noises, it's the cat. I don't know how much of it will be picked up by the microphone, but the cat is being an absolute menace right now. So we do have an interesting structure where this ebook version that I got, it has an introduction that is kind of like the normal classics introduction where it talks about themes and it spoils stuff. So I did not read that, but it also has an introduction that is part of the story. And in that part, you learn a little bit more about this place. I guess it's kind of like an island, and then also you learn about this family, the family that Mama Day, our kind of main character, is part of. And we have this place that is basically not part of any US state, and it's kind of like really out of the way of things. And so a lot of what's going on in this place is, as I said, absolute menace right now. And she's just going to continue. She has a lot of stuff she can just like drop off the desk right now, and she will drop everything. So this place has been kind of like off the map, and the way they do things is like very much like the way they want to do things. So it's definitely an interesting setup for the story. And we do have this family that has lived there for many, many generations. And Mama Day is one of the people in this family. Basically, she is the daughter of a seventh son, which is also kind of like a fairy tale mythology trope. And she has a sister as well, and they still live in this place. Now, we do also see that kind of the family history that is like her generation and then the following generations. It has been quite troubled. People have passed away, and so there is tragedy as well. And then we basically have this one woman who is the like final heir, the final descendant of this family, and she doesn't live in this place anymore. She has moved to New York City, and so we do get her story as well. So that's why it's like really hard to tell what this book is actually about, because on the one hand we have the story of this Black woman trying to make it in the 70s or 80s in New York City, more 80s probably, and there are like difficulties, like economic difficulties at the time, so it's very hard to find a job. And when we meet her, that is kind of like her goal. She's trying to find a new job, and she is in a restaurant and she sees this guy, and there's like a little bit of something there. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a love story or what. I have no idea, but it's not like a meet cute. It's more like a, you know, like those two people were kind of meant to meet, but they don't really work well together. Like, we also see them kind of go on a first date in one scene, and it's like very awkward, and we can really see that, you know, things don't go super well between them. So we have that storyline, which is kind of like, I don't know, it gives me that nostalgic feeling of like watching like a 90s rom-com or something, because so far it's pretty much what it is. We have this woman in the big city kind of struggling, but finding her own way, meeting this man, all of those tropes. So it is kind of fun. I am enjoying that. But then we also have the story of Mama Day, and that's where a lot more of the intrigue for me personally lies, and especially because she seems to be kind of a conjure woman, or kind of a healer in a way. She has a lot of knowledge about herbs and stuff, and so because this like place, if it's an island or whatever it is, it has been so remote in a way, she is the like first medical response for a lot of people as well. So at the point where I'm at right now, for example, we see this woman who's like desperately trying to get pregnant, and she has done some things that were not very good, like very healthy for her. So now Mama Day has been called in to help, and we see kind of that, and we see her relationship with this doctor as well. And I gotta be honest, I love stories like that. I love stories about kind of like healing and you know, this sense of like knowledge that is different from like traditional medical knowledge, that is like born from tradition and born from kind of like culture in a way. So I think that is very interesting. And yeah, what is this book actually about? No idea. No idea. I guess it feels like almost like a little bit of slice of life right now, where we just see these women and the way they are moving around in their like worlds, in their little bubbles, in their communities, and just how they live their life. And I really love kind of like I love the language first and foremost. I love the writing style. I think this is a book that, you know, when I started reading it, I felt like completely intrigued, even though I had no idea who these people were. But just the writing style pulls you in so quickly, and it's like in a way very easy to read, but not because it's like simple writing, but just because the writing is so good that it sucks you in immediately. And I love, love, love that. And again, as I said, I have this sense of nostalgia reading this book. Now, I haven't been alive in the 80s, so don't get me wrong on that. But it feels kind of nostalgic in a way. I really, really love the way that also as Mama Day and her sister basically are portrayed as these like Black grandmas. And there is this scene where they have received a letter from the granddaughter of the sister of Mama Day, the woman in New York City. And so these two women are now sitting on the porch and they're trying to write an answer together. And just their dynamic, but also the way they address their granddaughter, it's so cute. It's so adorable. I love the way that whole scene like played out and how it was written, and you just really, you feel it in a way. You can picture everything, and it was a very adorable scene. So yeah, overall so far I'm having a great time reading this book. I'm also extremely slow reading this book right now. I'm just very busy, so I was hoping to basically be finished with this vlog in like the next 3 days, which is not going to happen, let's be real. But I hope I can make some more good progress with it and update you very soon. So I'm now halfway through Mama Day, and I have to film this update in a bit of an awkward spot because the cat is sitting in my usual filming spot, and I'm not risking my life for this update, so I'm sorry. But I think I can keep this update kind of short as well. I feel like the first chapter of the book is very consistent, and it doesn't really like have a lot of like high peaks of interest or anything like that. As we go through the story, we learn a little bit more about the family history. We have the family tree at the beginning of the book, and I would recommend, if you're reading the book, that you take a good look at it, because it definitely becomes important as the story goes on. There's like a lot of references to the previous generations, kind of how they lived their lives and the connections between them, and kind of the tragedies of the family as well. So that seems to play like a very big part, because in parts it is about history kind of repeating itself, and it also touches onto like the name as like a very important thing for a person. Like your name can have power over your life in a way. So I think these are like very interesting topics, and it's just something that we learn a little bit more about as we go along this first chapter. We do have kind of a time jump at the end of this chapter, so we do have basically kind of a linear story, and then we kind of jump ahead for years to the point where we leave off at the end of the first chapter. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of time jumps, but I feel like in this case it makes sense. It is clear that we need the characters to be along the way a little bit more of their trajectories, and the way it is done, it does feel very solid, and it's not like now I don't know these characters anymore because I haven't seen their development. It feels just like, you know, we've set them on a trajectory in that first chapter. Now we let it run for a couple of years, and now we're back to see where that leads us. So the ending of this chapter is also a little bit ominous in a way, and I really like the imagery that is used basically, because we do have kind of the crossing of a bridge in like a literal sense, but also it seems in a metaphorical sense. So I have no idea what that will actually mean for the story and for our characters in the end now. So yeah, I have been really enjoying my reading experience. I feel like I'm a little bit more settled in the story now, but I still could not tell you what this book is about or what it's trying to do. It's like still very like intriguing to me in that way, because it feels like we're building to something, but I have no idea what that will be. So I'm definitely kind of like enchanted by the book, and I can't wait to read the next part, and I'll talk to you again when I'm halfway through the second chapter. So as you can see, I'm currently not at home. I'm still on my little weekend trip, but I'm now 75% somewhat through Mama Day. And so I wanted to give you a quick update in the hopes that when I'm on the train tonight, I will be able to maybe finish it or at least, get a good chunk of the rest of it done. Now, in this third quarter that we're reading of the book, it is quite interesting. Like I said, that we have kind of this moment, this crossing of a bridge that is mentioned at the end of the first chapter. So now we have crossed that bridge, and it is quite interesting to see what's going on the other side. There is a lot more fighting, I feel like, and you can tell that this book was written in the late 70s or 80s, because this really, sometimes you just want to shake these people and you want to tell them to just get a grip and, just talk to each other. It's just, very obvious how much like communication styles, especially in relationships, have changed, or there's a lot of potential just to talk to each other with these people. And so sometimes it can be just a tiny little bit frustrating in a way as well, because you just sit there and you're like, God, talk to each other. But we do have this like one very big fight that is towards the end of this third quarter. And now the question kind of is like, what's gonna happen? There is like this person that is quite obviously portrayed as the antagonist. So I'm quite interested to see how that will play out, because this could very well end up being more of a magical fight at the end than I had anticipated, because we do have this whole like wise woman kind of voodoo magic stuff that is like floating around the story a little bit. But I'm intrigued to see whether this will like actually come to a head in the finale of the book. I'm really, really interested in that. So there is stuff that I really like about the book, but I have no idea where it's really going, which makes for an interesting reading experience, because I'm just here kind of along for the ride. I'm just like here trying to see where it's going. Not really having a lot of like theories, except for now that I think that this one person that is kind of made out to be a bit of a villain, that they will have a role to play in the finale. And we are also now waiting for a storm to come. So again, leaving off kind of this chapter at a moment where, there is like this literal storm, but, there's also figuratively a storm to come. And I'm very intrigued to see how the storm will hit, where it will hit, what the damage is gonna be. I am still not quite sure whether all of our characters will make it out alive, which is also an interesting experience. And one more thing I wanted to say, because I don't think I've mentioned it in any of the other updates, is that this book is written in like different styles. So when we follow Mama Day around, it's written in third person. But when we're in the chapters with George and Coco, those are written in a mixture of a first and second person. So it's basically as if, Coco was addressing George as she tells her part of the story, and vice versa. George is addressing Coco as he tells his part of the story. So I think the mix of these writing styles is quite interesting as well. Because of that, we don't always know completely what Mama Day is up to, and I still love her as a character. There is this scene where she's just like basically accused of being old in a way, and her revenge for that was so funny. It was hilarious. I love her. And also I'm still like really intrigued how the whole like family history will play into things now, because we have built up quite a bit of like the lore of the family as well, and I think that will probably have a role to play. So that's where I'm at, and I think I'm just gonna finish the book now, and then we'll talk again. So I'm now back, and yesterday I did finish reading Mama Day, so now we can discuss the ending of the book a little bit. I will keep it spoiler free. I might, allude to some things that happen, but just in like very broad strokes, so don't worry about it. If I do need to talk about spoilers at the end, I will do that, and I will tell you. So let's for now just talk more in general about how this book ended. Now, as I had said in the last update, we were at the brink of this big storm, and the storm plays out in the last quarter of this book. And because of this storm, metaphorically and literally, I did see some connections between this book and Their Eyes Were Watching God. I think that there are definitely similarities in the storytelling and the themes that we explore in this one, because both of these books kind of have this love story at the core of it. It is about, being a like a brave, educated, smart young Black woman and looking for love in a time when that is not easy, and the ways that love can find you. And it's also in a way about sacrifice. And then we do have this theme of the storm, and I thought the way this was written, we do have during that like literal storm, we have a character kind of reading from the Bible, and the way this was done, it reminded me a lot of the imagery of the storm that we have in Their Eyes Were Watching God as well. So I thought that was quite interesting, as I just had read Their Eyes Were Watching God in November. And then we do also have this focus on family, on legacy, on these ancestors. And I think that is what is really unique about this book, the exploration of family, of love in the family, and how kind of like this whole like history of the family comes down to this main character, Coco. And I really enjoyed that part. And going into the introduction that this version of the book had that I was reading, it talked about how Zora Neale Hurston was one inspiration for Gloria Naylor when she was writing. And I found that very interesting. I still have only read that one Zora Neale Hurston book, but I definitely want to read more. And I also definitely want to read more Gloria Naylor. So it was interesting kind of to see some similarities, but also some differences. So in Their Eyes Were Watching God, we also see the relationship of the grandmother and the daughter, and kind of the short-term family history of the main character. But in this one, we can actually spend only very little time with the grandmother because she passes away very early on in the novel. But I did really enjoy the relationship of these two characters, and in a way seeing how their life circumstances had changed so much in just like 2 generations basically, that also their goals in life were so different. Now, when we go to Mama Day, I feel like the relationships between the generations are in a way different, but they also have a similar ring to it, because we're still looking at a grandmother and a grandaunt and their granddaughter slash niece. And we do have this missing link kind of with Coco's mom being gone. And while we don't quite see like how it all played out, and we do have this much bigger family tree, we still see how, through this legacy, a lot of pain, a lot of hurt, a lot of trauma is given from one generation to the next. And still they have such a strong bond and such a love for each other. I thought it was very, very great to see these relationships explored, especially for a Black family. And with this whole place that we're looking at, I think it's called Willow Springs. I haven't said that in the video before, but because my memory is always so bad with names. But this whole place is kind of the legacy of this family. The whole lore of the place is linked to this family. And so in the end, it also comes back to play a major role in the resolution that we get. And I do always love when we have a story about a different kind of love, if it's not just like romantic love we're looking at, but in this case, the love of these family members for each other, the immense trust that they have, that they are kind of looking out for each other and that they're trying to do what's best for each other. I think we do have kind of like these two really, really strong female characters with Mama Day and Coco, the way that they clash in a way, but they can also recognize so much that they have in common. And especially because we see also a lot of what Mama Day thinks, it feels so warm in a way, and there's so much love for this younger woman. And yeah, I love that aspect of the story and how it played out in the end, and kind of like the sacrifices that all of these characters have to bring to make it through the storm in the end. What I didn't absolutely love is the way that this love story played out. I feel like in the end it got kind of awake in a sense, but we also kind of see this passing down of legacy, because like in the end, both Mama Day and Coco have this strong link to the other place. And I think that is also like this last image that we get in a way is so wonderful. I really liked their relationship and the threads that bind them together. Now, I would still say, while this is a lot about this romantic relationship, it is also not like a easy to read thing, because these two characters they're kind of portrayed as almost like meant to be like they're one true like person in a way, but then they clash so much, and like all of that fighting, it was getting on my nerves quite a bit. I think that is still like a product of this being a book written in and about the 80s. Like, people just had different communication styles and stuff, but I just wanted to say that while you kind of have to believe the love story, it wasn't always easy for me, and I was thinking a lot like, you could do better, you know? So that was a bit of a struggle for me personally. I never really fell in love with the guy that we have, and I think at some in some way that is the point, but also, yeah, I did struggle with that a little bit. Now, I don't think I have much else to say about this book, apart maybe from the fact that these chickens deserved better. They had nothing to do with anything. Those poor chickens. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you go into the book. The chickens, they have to suffer a little bit. But apart from that, this was really a very unique read. I couldn't really tell you what kind of a genre it is. It does have this speculative edge. It does feel like historical fiction, but then because it is set in the time when it was written, it's kind of more like contemporary fiction, I guess. I don't know. I think this is why it deserves to be called a modern classic, because this is so much like different from other literature that it stands out, and it's a very, very unique style of writing. I had already talked about the different kind of perspectives and how they're used, and I think that is like definitely one of the strong points. The writing in this book is absolutely phenomenal. The characters I did struggle with, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I absolutely love and adore Mama Day and also Coco's grandmother, but the younger people, they got on my nerves every once in a while. It was interesting. It was an interesting ride. I don't know whether I really loved all the like plot points, but I loved like what it did as a novel in like its entirety in a way. So I hope this helps you understand me a little bit, like how I felt about this book. And yeah, I hope it inspired you to pick it up. I think this is more of an underrated book. Now, obviously, I had heard other people talk about it, or I wouldn't have picked it up myself, but I still feel like it's not a book that you hear about on every booktube channel. So maybe this inspires you to give this author a try. I think it's very well worth your time. I don't think I really need to go into spoilers, because as I said, I don't really feel like the individual plot points were kind of the point of the story, and then some things I just wanted to be explored maybe a little bit more, especially when it comes to George as a character. But yeah, I would highly recommend. I hope you are intrigued about this book now, and let me know what you think. Have you read this book? Have you heard about this book? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would very much appreciate it to hear from you. And also don't forget to leave a like, that always helps me out, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye!